listening to yet another episode of Smash the Bug. I'm your host, Joseph Maxwell, and I have three incredibly wonderful people here on the podcast with me. Normally do just one-on-one, but today it's three-on-one, so this will be a good podcast. We're going to be talking about sticking points, challenges that people bring maybe upon themselves when they are deploying solutions out to Commerce Cloud, and what can we do to avoid those, right? We want to have good operating applications, and the problem is if we don't know what we're doing, we make some terrible mistakes. And my goal is to help avoid mistakes from one end of the solution to the other end of the solution, and three incredibly wonderful and important people are here to help us avoid problems as we deploy applications out to Adobe Commerce Cloud. So with me is Yarik Voronyi from is an engineering manager at Adobe. Russell Albin, who is the principal technical architect at Adobe. And last but not least, Shane Herman, senior director of customer engineering. So everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining the podcast today.
Awesome. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So the first question I want to ask, just to dive in, cut to the chase here, is you guys, of all people, see probably more Adobe Commerce Cloud deployments than probably anybody else. What are the challenges? What are those mistakes you see people make not every time, but all the time? What are the most common mistakes you see out there? And then, of course, how can we prevent those problems from creeping into our applications?
I'll come at it from a developer side because that's
Great.
what my background is. One of the things that I've seen, and it's not necessarily unique to cloud, but it definitely pertains because a lot of our bigger clients are on cloud, is the mistake of trying to do live inventory calls on category pages and product pages. I've more than once had that request. I caution everyone against such an endeavor, and usually 9 times out of 10 we roll back that feature because of the performance degradation.
Interesting. So when you say live inventory request, is that like using ESI or like Ajax to pull it in, or is that loading it via just like turning full page cache off in that kind of a scenario?
Never turn page full cache. Is that a joke, dude? No, I'm kidding.
It is April 1st.
Yeah, no. Usually what we'll do is we'll see this implementation and they'll want to load like the product page. And like you said, through Ajax, or even a worse scenario is trying to do it before the page is loaded, reaching out to your ERP and saying, how much inventory do I actually have? That latency, if you multiply that times 10 products, 20 products, or God forbid you have like unlimited products on your search result page, can be hundreds. And that's been a pretty big hiccup that I've seen a lot of people make, and I hate to see them happen.
So what's your proposal in that type of a scenario? More or less build middleware to it, like a caching system on the Magento side to load those results?
I try to get them to compensate and say, well, real-time calls are going to be problematic. I don't care who you are. So if we can figure out what cadence is good enough, is it every hour? Is it every 30 minutes? Is it every 5 minutes? But have something feed commerce with that appropriate data, you're going to be much more successful because you're going to leverage the native application doing what it does best. Reaching out in real time is always a problem.
Excellent. That's good. Yeah, I get that, and I think that is very sage advice. So, thank you. You've seen this a couple of times, and I think we could extrapolate that out to any type of queries. That
any live request.
That's expensive. Yeah, definitely. And just we got to watch out for what we're doing there, and that obviously doesn't apply just to Commerce Cloud. Like you said, that applies to anything. And querying in a loop, all those, they're kind of anti-patterns there. So excellent, thank you. That's good. Yarik, what are some of your thoughts about mistakes that you often see?
Well, I see a lot of customers don't pay enough attention for full page caching, like Fastly, and don't put enough effort to make sure Fastly is configured properly. So the pages always serve from the cache. even though they can invalidate inventory, invalidate products. Fastly still allow you to use stale cache functionality. So in this case, customers will never see the downgrade in performance. So we try to highly encourage customers to pay enough attention for caching, full page caching. This is one of the major critical pieces for the commerce.
Yes. So basically, in this case, is the cache clearing too aggressive or not aggressive enough?
Well, when you have a Fastly in front of everything, right? You may expect from Fastly serve the cache every time. You don't need to even wait response from the backend. If you have stale cache functionality enabled,
got it. Okay.
You don't send requests to backend at all. You always see the fast and quick response for catalog page, for product view page, and for home page. Of course, you have requests to backend when you go to checkout, to the cart, you place the order, which is expected. But the conversion rate usually was much, much smaller, and most of requests coming to home and catalog pages.
Interesting. Okay, so basically, in that case, making sure that the stale cache functionality is turned on. So then, like you said, the front end pages never hit the back end in a request.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice. That's good. I figured we're going to be spending a bit of time talking about performance. So definitely proving that here. Excellent. That is good. I guess we'll just run through the room, keep going through the room here. Shane, this is a sip from the fire hose, and this has been great. So
sure.
What are some of your thoughts there?
Yeah, so mine kind of in two parts, and they're going to be add-ons to Russell and Yarik. So we'll go in a little bit and just sort of kind of the current order, a little bit reverse, but to add on to the caching aspect of things, we do as part of in our Commerce Cloud, we offer up the Fastly service. A lot of our customers are starting to move more towards GraphQL, and so there is some basic capability to even cache GraphQL queries that will give you some help there. So just if you're implementing GraphQL, definitely consider how you might be able to leverage some of that caching capability there. So that's something just to be thinking about. And then back into Russell's area. It's not sort of an additive discussion. There is one of the things to be thinking about as you're looking at Commerce Cloud is that not all of our services are created equal, and I'll kind of dive into that, which is certainly we run on top of MySQL. However, in our Commerce Cloud, we use MariaDB, and specifically on top of MariaDB, we use a Galera cluster configuration. And so just knowing some of those caveats and nuances around Galera up front will help you save some time, maybe around your development or performance expectations, or certain things that you might be used to in a sort of a local or a traditional MySQL environment. But having some of that aspect will kind of help you there, along with some of those other services that we're running, like Redis, et cetera, that can sometimes when someone's going from an existing on-premise deployment, they're trying to move it onto our Commerce Cloud, and specifically, we see that there's a few bumps that we hit there that are tied to that.
Okay, interesting. That's really good. Back on GraphQL, this might show a lack of knowledge on my part, but which is great. I'll take it. I wasn't aware that GraphQL natively is cached. Am I missing something there? So is that some extra functionality that's built out in like Fastly, or is that is that custom rules that need to be built out, or maybe it is built out in Fastly?
GraphQL is not natively, because natively you use post requests, but because we can support get requests can be cached. Okay. And because of that, a lot of developers don't understand that they can switch it and use get, and then you leverage the ability to take care of the caching. So
so it's the developer that basically controls whether a request is cached or not.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's really good to know. So yeah, switch. Another takeaway there is use get requests when applicable for
Exactly.
fetching information. Don't use it all the time, but
Yep.
yeah. Excellent. Wow, that's really good. This is good information. And the funny thing is, it's mostly applicable to any application on Adobe Commerce anyway.
So far.
Yeah.
I did think of a couple that are cloud specific, so hopefully that'll we can get into that. So one of the things that as coming from an agency, I tried to instill on all of our devs before I came to Adobe was doing some self-help before reaching out to support. And some of the things that were usually tickets ended up being something very simple. So some for example, on cloud, if you have a site that's just randomly, just out of the blue, just stopped responding, I've seen probably over half the occasions where it just turns out that you have a runaway log and your server's full. And by simply SSHing in and running, df-sh, you can realize that your server's at capacity, or log into New Relic and just see what the report says. And if that's the case, you can self-help. You don't have to create a support ticket.
Absolutely.
Technically it's a P1 until you reduce some of your bloat, but it can be self-healed. So I definitely recommend that you try to self-help, because by the time you log in, create a support ticket, someone looks at it and then they reach out, you could have wasted 15, 20 minutes, who knows, up to an hour.
Yeah.
So logging in, doing a little bit of self-help, doing some of the generic things, checking for server capacity, making sure that if you have a self-hosted SSL certificate, not many people do, make sure that it didn't expire, little things like that.
Excellent. That's a really good, yeah, getting in there and just taking a quick gander. I know that's
just spend 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can elaborate on this. Commerce Cloud provides a lot of actually self-service good tools to be used and quickly determine those issues. New Relic, great example. You just open dashboard, you can see those mistakes. You immediately can see the errors, or is your response time dropped. Another solution we continue to promote for the cloud is a site-wide analysis tool, which provides best practice recommendations, especially when you're dealing with performance issues. Before you go and fine-tune your application, you want to understand what's the fundamental problems on your website. And site-wide analysis tool is a great start to deep dive to what's the best practices support team or product team recommends as a best practice.
That's good. Yeah, I actually haven't used that tool myself yet, but I've heard a lot of really good things about it in that. So definitely, I think that's good. Back on New Relic, I think one other point to call out there is you can configure alerts for error alerts, and so that should be a no-brainer. But it's easy to overlook, or just not have part of the onboarding process. Whatever, if somebody's taking over a site or whatever, to get those alerts configured, because that also, like you said, can precede any outages if there is one of those common ones,
definitely
disk is full.
And out of box, we provide already pre-configured alerts. What merchants needs to do, they just need to subscribe, and by default we provide CPU, disk space, memory, and I believe Abdex alert. So on those alerts, it's already there. You just need to subscribe and watch if anything happens.
Yeah, well, that's good. Good to know that too. Thank you. Excellent. Shane, do you have anything to add on that?
I'll kind of carry on to that conversation, right? Which is the thing that we love about commerce is that it is highly customizable and extensible. And one of the things that can be a challenge on the cloud or in support is it's highly customizable and extensible. So, so I think that's a common thing there. But one of the things out there that most developers that will be using is extensions from our marketplace, as an example. And so one of the things to be looking out for is either using our marketplace or going to that extension provider and making sure, have they tested their extension on Commerce Cloud, right? And specifically that version you're looking to, right? Not all extensions are created equal, and so kind of looking at that will save you some time, right? Because you might have been used to something, and maybe it's just there's a little, sometimes it's just some minor code configuration changes, but there can be some gotchas there. And then tying back to what Yarik was talking about around our site-wide analysis tool, we definitely want people leveraging that more as well, because we actually provide some insight into some of the compatibility and the versions within that as well. So you can kind of one quick glance can kind of see in your project what the state is of those extensions. So it's kind of a quick glance way to kind of give you kind of a rough guesstimate maybe where you need to focus some of that time if we're seeing any issues there.
Exactly. One of the things I love about the idea of Commerce Cloud is that it's basically environment as a configuration. And I think that provides a tremendous amount of stability. Plus, since this containerized, another one of those security features is that it's immutable code. The file system is immutable, it's read-only. I think to your point there, Shane, I've heard definitely some issues with some marketplace extensions that do write code or do write changes into the incorrect places or whatever, and that can cause some issues with that. So yeah, definitely making sure that those are Commerce compatible, which I'd say it's kind of a good practice anyways. You should only be writing into the var directory anyway. So
yeah, but there's just some little gotchas, just to help you along and kind of ease the frustration as you try to work on a Commerce Cloud project. Yeah,
well, and I would also add that it's just good practice anyway. So it's not like Commerce Cloud is out of the ordinary. It just helps you, in my opinion, it helps force you into best practices, which is what we should be all doing anyways. I mean, so
sure.
I think that's ultimately really good overall. Russell, you said you had a couple things. Maybe so you shared one of them, I think, already. So let's talk about another one.
So another one is you can do some configurations. They call it ideal configurations. And what that does is in your config.php, it dumps some of the config values to help with the compilation time. And so there's a command that you run. It's an ECE tools command that will take some of those variables, put them in config.php, which will help the deployment process. And then there's another one. You can add the post-deploy hook. And all these are in the dev docs. I'm not going to bore anybody reading them here, but those are the ideal state is what you would want to Google and read up on those dev docs.
Okay. Commerce Cloud, you said ideal state?
Ideal state, yep.
We'll add that into the show notes as well.
Yep.
Cool. Yep. That's really good. There we go. Cool. Yarik, I'm sure you got something else up your sleeve here.
Well, my second thing, again, it's probably not just related to cloud, but entire commerce.
We'll hear it. Let's hear it.
Yeah. So indexers, indexing functionality, especially when we talking about third-party extensions, very often what we are seeing, those extensions just invalidate indexers, like entire indexers gets invalidated. As a result of this, what we have now Commerce has to reindex bunch of data, like entire catalog. Once everything is reindexed, what happens next? You have to flush the cache. You have to purge the cache entirely. So as a result of this, you put a lot of stress on your infrastructure, on your environment, without even need, because almost 100% cases can be done by a partial update by using the right mode. But as I said, a lot of customizations, a lot of third parties offend this functionality, and it causes a lot of real problems with production environments.
That was said very well. I've run into my fair share of problems totally along those lines, and it's amazing how much damage that can do to the performance, and you just wonder what's going on here. And well, unfortunately, it takes a lot of digging to usually get to the source of that, because those are not often easy to find. Mm-hmm. And then you find it's that module that we installed the other day.
Right.
That hurts. That's awesome. Well, very good. So I promised we'd keep this short and sweet. I coming up against our deadline. This has been really, really, really good, guys. I appreciate you taking the time coming on here. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, which you have learned, how you help people on a daily basis with this. So thank you for coming on, joining it. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
It was an absolute pleasure having these guys on here to talk about Commerce Cloud. And the funny thing was, it kind of ended up extrapolating out into some of these other areas. But it's so important. I mean, we love working on Adobe Commerce, Magento, and it's easy to make some mistakes. And so keep these things in mind. It will make you a better developer. It'll make the merchants you are building websites for happier. That's why we're doing this podcast, Smash the Bug. It's good talking with you. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.